Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. Hi, I'm Eric Hurlock, and it's been a while. It's been a few weeks since we published an episode. There's been a lot happening, a lot of sort of change in the air these days. I've been working on content from the Montana Hemp Summit, or as it's known now, the Goodness of Hemp Summit. I don't have any regrets about the summit because it was great, but I didn't get time to talk to Ken Elliott. Usually we sit down on the porch, maybe at his daughter Morgan's house, and we kind of talk about the summit. And we didn't get the chance to do that this year because it was an action-packed few days there in Great Falls. But Ken Elliott is here with me now. Good morning, Ken. How are you doing?
Eric, good morning, man. It's we're in Nebraska today. And, fall is in full swing. I talked to some folks out in Colorado yesterday. They had 20 inches of snow. It snowed in Montana already. It's that time of year. We embrace it. It's awesome, but it's different, right?
Things are changing. We could use some of that moisture out here in Pennsylvania. There's been no rainfall since August. So, yeah, it's dry. It's been kind of hot, but starting to cool off now. Anyway. Yeah, this is great. Thanks for taking my call this morning. And we didn't really get a chance to catch up much there at the summit. There was a lot of new people this year. It was a well-organized few days of education and networking. I don't know. What were some of your thoughts of the summit?
Well, gosh, if you think about this summit, you got to think about the original summit when you came out to Montana a few years ago, and we talked about what the heck are we going to do, and over the last, I think this is the fourth one, maybe.
Yeah, this is fourth one.
Fourth one. It's like, and we originally wanted to, and we still, I think our goal was, get the industry leaders out there, get the folks out there who work every day trying to figure out this hemp thing, and bring them, right. And the first year was great, and the second year was better, and now the fourth year it was awesome. Yeah. I mean, you saw people there from all over the world. We had Ding from China, right? We had come from New Zealand. We had people from everywhere. We had academics from Cornell and Kentucky and North Carolina State.
Yeah, NC State, yeah.
I mean, it was awesome. We had industry leaders, Guy Carpenter, Cameron McIntosh, Andrew Bish. We had the folks from Manitoba Harvest come down. I mean, these are leaders in our industry. We had Jeff Koscheck there. Jeff and I were reminiscing. He was the first guy I met that had anything to do with hemp, and it was back like in 2014 or something.
And he's with Verve Seeds up in Canada.
Yeah. We had Rich with New West Genetics, and we've been working with them and Wendy Mosier, not only on the Hemp Fee Coalition, but Wendy's doing amazing things with New West Genetics. We had Olaf there. I mean, there was a ton of people. And
I'm excited this year because I recorded pretty much everything. I ran everything that came out of the speakers' microphones. I ran that into my recording device. So I am working on putting together kind of an overview of the whole event that I'll be sharing over the next couple of weeks. This episode today, I'm going to start sharing some of my interviews that I conducted sort of one-on-one with folks who were there.
Did you talk to Bob Quinn when you were there?
Oh, I did talk to Bob Quinn, yeah.
Bob's a lot like
Steve Groff.
He's a legend. I mean, if I ever grow up, I want to be like Bob. You know what I mean? That's the guy.
Yeah. Well, here, let me give you the rundown on who's going to be on the show today. So you're going to hear an interview with Eduardo Garcia. He's the chef from Montana Mex. He's got a really incredible story. Cheryl Mitchell from Steuben Foods. We're going to check in with Emma Mallon from New West Genetics. You already mentioned them. Erica Campbell. She's involved with the Common Ground and Kiss the Ground films, and she's like a food systems strategic thinker. Anjali Kumar, she has a company called Inner Bark Heritage. She's down in Georgia. So a lot of cool people on this episode today. Guy Carpenter is going to tell us the story of that Benton shirt, the first hemp shirt made, processed, and sewn in America.
Grown in America, made in America.
Yeah.
And it's, it's awesome. I mean, of course, Guy is an institution in and of itself.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to talk with, Pierre Berard and what they're doing with the HEMI thing and the goodness of hemp? And then did you get hold of Krish, with the Zasti people? they're doing, I mean, crazy things they're doing. So
Yeah, well, I have their presentations recorded, and so we'll do a synopsis of what they're talking about on a future show. But can you give us a quick overview of HEMI? That's a sort of a new organization that you guys are sort of spearheading. When I say you guys, I mean IND Hemp. So it's an acronym, right? It's the Hemp Education and Marketing Initiative.
yeah, it's a little bit different. We're members of NHA, and Jeff Whaling was there. We're also members of NIHC, and Patrick Katagi was there.
Yep.
And we're big believers and supporters in those two organizations. But those two organizations don't necessarily speak to the companies that are out there, right? We need to find a way to do a better job of educating people and then marketing the things we're all doing, right?
Right.
And that's not Jeff's job. That's not Patrick's job. That's our job. And what we thought is, hey, this is something we need. So, the HEMI thing is the thing. It's the goodness of hemp. And, I've reached out to Magic in Poland and there's people all over the world that need to be a part of this. We need to promote what they're doing. Yep. Because they're doing what we're trying to do. They're just in a different lane, but they've got the same heart we have. And so we're trying to just find folks in the industry who are actually doing it, not advocating for hemp like Patrick and Jeff do, and they do a great job. These are people who go to work every day, and their livelihood depends on it. And so it's like, how can we support them? Because they've got as much at risk as we are. How can they support us? How can we support them? How can we collectively move this industry forward?
And that's what HEMI is. It's an organization that does that. And the tagline is the goodness of hemp.
Yeah, and right now we got Pierre Berard. And Pierre did an awesome review and assessment of the industry over the last 3 years. And I think he's taken the lead on this thing. And he'll be at Greenbuild, I guess, next week. Yeah, him and Trey and some others will be there. So that's kind of our goal. How do we support the hemp woods and the hempitectures? And how can we support Cameron and all the other folks, right? It's a little bit difficult for IND Hemp to do that. But as an organization, HEMI, it's like, hey, support these guys, buy their stuff. How can we educate people on what Cameron's doing and why is it so good at what he's doing and the quality of food that hemp is and all that stuff. We just need a little bit more than individuals out on the fringes screaming about how good this stuff is. Hopefully as a collective, we can do a better job of educating and marketing our industry.
So I'll be down at Greenbuild next week. So I'll see Pierre and I'll catch up with everybody down there. The other thing I think that we should talk about today, and I know you're passionate about this and I am too, it's the One Plant film. Right, we've been talking to Jordan and Maxwell here on the show sort of periodically over the past couple of years. They're filmmakers, the Sunflower Films. They're based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. They've been working on this film about the cannabis plant and the hemp industry, and it's almost done. But I guess they need a little more help. You want to jump in and give me your thoughts on the Kickstarter, Ken?
Yeah, and Jordan and Maxwell were there at the summit, and we got to catch up with them. They gave us a new trailer, a couple-minute trailer, 3 minutes, and it's awesome. These guys, we've been working with them, and they've been in the industry. They're working with industry. Joe Hickey's been involved with this thing from get-go. And the folks at Impactful Ventures, Michael and Mary have been pushing this thing. We've got Eduardo with Equine Hemp. These are the guys who are funding this thing.
Yeah.
And Michael's not from the hemp industry. He just believes in this thing, right? He wants to see change. So anyway, it's this film and the way that Jordan and Maxwell and Garrett and Davey put this thing together. This is a heart movie. It's like when you look at it, Jordan's mom struggled with some issues, and he used, he was hopeful to use CBDs and hemp, the flower, to help her on her journey. And so that's how he started. I mean, it is an amazing story. And then I think we all got kind of pulled into it. They've talked with hundreds of people out there about what is this industrial hemp thing, and from the flower aspect to the fiber, the grain, and just we talked about a lot of things you can do with hemp. And they jumped into the middle of this industry and the people in the industry and are telling our story. And it frustrates me just a little bit. These guys need some money. to get this thing across the finish line. And I know there's been a ton of money pumped into this film already, but I'm not sure it's been pumped in by everybody. And I don't think everybody understands how important it is that this film gets out there, that it gets finished, and then it gets released, and then we share it with everybody about how good hemp is.
Because there has not been a film like this about the cannabis plant. You know, most of the documentaries are focused on marijuana and, you know, the 420 culture or whatever that is. But this is a film that looks, that just takes a sober look at the whole plant and the benefits that it offers to humanity to sort of address the issues that the world has, you know, environmental issues, social issues, health issues, community issues, economic issues. This film is doing, you know, is telling the story to, you know, the larger audience in a way that the people inside the hemp industry just can't, right? So that's what I'm excited about. And that's why, like what you're saying, the people in the hemp industry whose story is being told here, we all have a vested interest to help out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and help out means more than just, you know, giving them likes on their social media pages, right? They need some money right now. They've got this Kickstarter campaign, and I never understood Kickstarter campaign. Hell, I can barely get my computer to start some days. But it's like, you know, they've got so long to get. I think they need $65,000 to get this thing across the finish line, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I know there's been some people who have already participated, and I think that, you know, we're into it $20-some thousand. They need another $40-some thousand, and it's like our industry needs to stand up here. I mean, it's like it's more than just saying, yeah, that's a great thing, and we hope hope they do well. We wish them well. I hope somebody else funds it. But you know, we've got a lot of folks in this industry. If folks would kick in $100, if a company would kick in $1,000. I mean, you know, from IND Hemp standpoint, it's like, this is how we make a living. This is how we put people to work. And it's like, these guys are trying to tell our stories. Let's support them doing that. And so I don't know how we go about this. And this isn't a message to shame anybody into contributing. That's not the idea here. But, you know, if we can provide a little, little pressure, peer pressure. Guys, this is an opportunity to support somebody, something, this film, to advocate for us. Yeah. And they can do it in a way that we can't do it. You know, when Ken's out there yelling about how good it is, he's got a selfish interest in IND Hemp. But this speaks for a whole industry. So, and we're tracking it to let you know. Right. IND Hemp's tracking it. Who's participating? Who's not participating? And it speaks volumes as to who's going to be in this industry in the future. If it's all about just talking, that's great. But if you're going to kick in some of the hard-earned capital and money that you know your blood, sweat, and tears have created, then you're in. Yeah. You know, we talk about that hill to die on. You know, you're on that hill. That's what we're looking for.
Right. This is starting to feel like one of those, you know, NPR telethons where like, call now and we'll start playing the music again. But no, I mean, it's
not the way it should. That's not the intent, but I'm telling you, this is important. This is important.
It is. And think about like where this, like, so the film, the way, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a film person, but I assume what's going to happen is this film will be available for streaming on one of the big platforms, right? And so it can just immediately be put in the hands of just regular consumers, the people who need to know about this, and they need to know that there's more to the cannabis plant than marijuana or even CBD. Like, people don't know, and this film tells that story in such a compelling way, compassionate way, and yeah, I mean, from a company's point of view, like a marketing point of view, throwing in a little money now on this end of it is, I think, really good marketing. If you get the film out in front of everybody and it lifts the whole industry. Oh yeah,
I mean, we have a bit of a marketing budget here at IND Hemp, and it's expensive to market. I mean, it's like, first you got to figure out who you're trying to market to, and what's your whole goal, and you got to hire people, and it's expensive. But with the film, and I know when talking to these guys, they looked at things like kiss the ground and common ground. And, we're a big fan of Need to Grow. That's another film.
Mm-hmm.
It speaks to a story. And, the storytelling that Jordan and Maxwell, Garrett and Davey are doing, they do it in such a way that it changes hearts. Mm-hmm. And if we don't change the hearts of people, we're not going to change anything, right? So a film it's just an amazing way of telling our story from a third party perspective. And I think they do a better job of telling our story than we tell our story. We're in the middle of this bubble ourselves, and we don't, a lot of times we don't bring a proper perspective.
It's hard to read the label when you're in the jar.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. And so you were talking about like the Kickstarter thing here, and it's a weird kind of time crunch, right? Because with Kickstarter, you set your goal, and then when you launch it, you have so many days to reach that goal. And if you don't get the goal, you don't get any of the money. So it's nerve-wracking. My wife and I did one of these campaigns like 10 years ago or more for a record album we were making. And it's really stressful. So I can just imagine how the Sunflower film guys are feeling about it. Like it's got to be so nerve-wracking. So I'm hopeful that we can do something here to sort of move the needle on that and get people thinking about it. So if you're hearing these words now, it's early November 2024. The world is changing. Maybe you're very excited about the way it's changing, or maybe you're a little concerned about the way things are going, but this is a good time to put your heart and your money into something really worthwhile, right? Like this is going to get this film out there so people around the country and around the world can see the full picture of this, of the plant, of the hemp plant, the cannabis plant, whatever you want to call it. It is a gift from God. And so please help. Call now, 1-800.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? You speak about a gift from God, and from IND Hemp standpoint, we have our Christian values and beliefs, and we believe in what we're doing. Folks are probably going to get an email from me, and I'm going to reach out and ask them to contribute. Yeah. And if you get an email from me, man, I want you to consider supporting it. If you don't get any email from me, well, consider doing it also. This is important.
If you don't get an email from Ken, check your spam folder.
Absolutely. But it's that important. It's we've been in the industry now. Gosh, we started this journey in 2012.
Yeah.
We've been in it a long time. And, I get passionate about it because, I think it's that important. So if you can hear the urgency in my voice, it's because I want the Sunflower folks to be successful. This film, I think, will speak volumes to who our industry, to what our industry is. So anyway. Yeah,
and so I'm looking at the Kickstarter page now. So they've got 22 days to go. They have, they've got $21,994 pledged of their $65,000 goal. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, but it's for making a film that's like, it's expensive to make a film. You look at these Hollywood blockbusters and they cost millions and millions of dollars, but hopefully our words are landing on receptive hearts.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And again, Eduardo and Michael with Impactful Venture and Equine Hemp, those guys have spent a lot of money. And now it's like, from our standpoint, let's help. They need a little bit of help getting it across the finish line. So the sooner it gets across the finish line, the sooner our story gets told. Yep. And, this last week you mentioned, it's been a very eventful week with the elections. And, regardless if you're blue or red, conservative or liberal, do not trust your government to get you to where you want to go. Trust in yourself, trust in your family and your organization. Let your heart lead you to bring the change we need. And don't count on somebody in Washington, D.C. Making things better for you, right? Go make life better. And I think this is a good way of making things better.
Amen to that.
Amen.
All right. Ken Elliott, I'm going to put the link to the Kickstarter page on the show page for this episode. And I'm going to let you get back to your busy day out there in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Ken. It's great to talk to you as always. And we're going to have more Montana Hemp Summit coming your way soon.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, I look forward to hearing every week. I do. I kind of missed you the last week or so. So
there's a lot going on. So yeah, we're getting back into the swing of it. So
there is, man. Well, thanks, Eric, for everything you do. Gosh, it's been a great journey we've all been on together, right?
Yeah, it has been.
And I look forward to more of the same as we keep going. Gosh, I look forward to sharing a cup of coffee with you in 5 years and remembering the good old days, right?
Yeah, right on. Well, I'm of the opinion that these are the good old days. Like no matter what, like the present moment, this is the good old days. So, all right, Ken, thanks.
All right, man.
Eduardo Garcia, welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Could you just give us an introduction?
Sure. Eduardo Garcia, industry professional chef, more recent career executive producer in the film space, and I'm also the CEO of Montana Mex and Dream Farm, both corporations primarily seated in education through food. That's whether we're developing a product, that's Montana Mex, and or whether it's an executive production through filmmaking or storytelling. Our work is to inspire folks to have a deeper connection to themselves through what they eat.
I love that. Yeah, so tell me how you ended up here at the Montana Hemp Summit, or the Goodness of Hemp Summit, as we're calling it this year.
Yes, indeed. The Goodness of Hemp Summit, for me, seems to be a bit of a lighthouse and an invitation at once. I'm 43 years old and been working professionally in kitchens since I was 15. And right at around 15 or 16 years, I had my first sort of crossroads with hemp as a product. And I remember then it piqued my interest. I thought, this seems fascinating. This product seems fascinating. It seems to have such a significant historical ground in so many different cultures, and it's nowhere. This is, I was 16 years old, 10th grade, so mid-1997-ish, and yet hemp was nowhere.
And this was here in Montana?
This was here, in Park County, Livingston, Montana. And so then you fast forward 20 years or so, and I've traveled the world as a yacht chef. I've started a food company with my siblings, both who are attending the Goodness of Hemp Summit with me. And 3 years ago, knowing that my brother and sister both work in industrial, global, raw material, hemp, cannabis collective, I just started challenging them both to get me, as their sibling and a chef, in closer proximity to the agricultural presence of hemp and the commoditized presence of hemp, so the industrial applications. And you're thinking, you're a chef, where and how does that factor? And yet, I hope and I imagine
it's a superfood.
Yeah, where I feel like we're all here at the Goodness of Hemp Summit to discuss just that. And so I'm here to learn, I'm here to activate, and I'm here to offer my partnership and support to not only friends like IND Hemp, who are hosting us all so generously. I went and toured their facility today and saw the fields, but also here to meet folks like you and others who are generally out prospecting for more perennially regenerative ways of eating, living, and fueling our lives.
Yeah. So as a chef, tell me some ways that you might use hemp in what you make.
Yeah, well, pick your purpose, passion, or poison, right? And so, food. I'm a chef, so it's a natural and easy language for me to use to distribute the message, food. So cook with it, share its nutritional bounty. That would be second to my primary focus in food, which is how was it grown, where was it sourced, how did it get to the marketplace, and how does our purchase at checkout ensure that that product will always remain available in some way, shape, form, or other. So how does this market stay healthy? So food for sure, application, but in addition to that, I think about all of the aspects of our known hospitality industry are fueled by something. And so right now we're in a petroleum-based fuel economy. I dream about a biofuel-based economy. I dream about what a variety of different plants and products could do for us if we looked outside of just petroleum. And so I think that's the other application I'm really excited about is fuel, and then fiber. Just what are we wearing? What are we wiping our mouths with? What are we wrapping our food in? Yeah. What are we trussing and tying our chickens with? Hemp is just historical, and it seems like it's time to dust off the encyclopedia that has the capital H on the binder. Right.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So have you picked up a nugget of wisdom or two here today at the Goodness of Hemp Summit?
I think the summit, the nugget that I picked up was touring the facility. I got a jump start on tours that are happening tomorrow. Yeah. And so really the expression that's moved me so far is to stand in the field and hold the plant and look at it and look at the chicken feed and look at the oil and look at the seed, and then think about the green goddess dressing I'm going to make with that oil, to think about the crumbly topping on my everything bagel with those hemp hearts. And really,
yeah. Well, what are some of your favorite ways of enjoying hemp as a food? Do you have some recipes that you like to make?
Sure. I like a green drink in my life, and so my wife also. And sometimes it's the shot of protein that we're looking for in our diet. And I tend to try and steer away from using the word becomes a quick meal or an easy meal, because food in life is not quick nor easy. And so I will use hemp heart as a robust addition of protein to a blended drink, right?
Oh, cool.
I think it's creamy. I think it's delicious. I'll use hemp heart as a toasted topping on top of my oats in the morning. I'll also use it in a salsa as a nut seed thickener texture, and or of course it's loaded with terrific amino acids and proteins for you. So kind of all over the spectrum, from beverages to baking to condiments and seasonings. I feel like hemp is ubiquitous with good health, and so stick it in any category you want and play ball, Yeah.
Tell me about your gratitude practice.
Sure. The short of the long of it is what we can't see through the microphone and through this podcast is that I have a metal hook for a left hand, so I am a amputee. That's new to me. I'm 43. At 30, I became an amputee, and leaning into that discovery of self, how to live life again with different body parts and locomoting different and all of the above. I have had many folks ask, Eduardo, give us a nugget, give us a quick take, like what's the key? And for a minute and a while there, I tried to sort of step away. I don't have anything for you. I don't have a crystal ball. And then I realized that was doing both myself a disservice and everyone else, because I almost wasn't trying. I was just skating away from it. And so now I lean into the question of, well, what is your practice? I've taken time to think, well, what is the thing I get to do for myself every day? And my daily practice is that at every meal I have, I give thanks for that meal. And I make it only profound enough so that I know it's real for me in that moment. So I just slow it down before I throw my fork in the steak, before I get salt and pepper on my mash, whatever it's going to be. And I just say, I am so thankful for this meal. And it brings a sincere ground level opportunity for everything else to be a gift. It's just saying, right here, my baseline, oh, this is living.
Eduardo Garcia, it's so great to talk to you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. Hello, Cheryl. It's good to see you again.
Eric,
I met you
good to see
last year in a hemp field.
Yeah, it's good to see you, and it's nice that we're coming to the summit again this year. What a great experience.
Yeah, well, why don't you introduce yourself for us, or reintroduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Dr. Cheryl Mitchell, and I'm with Steuben Foods, and actually with GNS, Steuben GNS, which stands for the Grains, Nuts, and Seeds Ingredient Manufacturing Division of Steuben Foods. who produces the ingredients also for Elmhurst milk. Steuben Foods is a low-acid aseptic manufacturer. That's a big thing. Okay. So basically all those shelf-stable products and beverages that you see on the shelves, that's shelf-stable low-acid aseptic processing. Low acid meaning that the pH is neutral or in the neutral area. So unlike acidified foods like pops and sodas and everything like that, those are acidified. Okay. So, but since we deal with the natural raw material sources, this is what makes it necessary for us to have that special low acid aseptic.
Okay, and this is, you are maybe a food scientist, a chemical scientist? Like, tell me a bit about your background.
So technically, I have a PhD in chemistry. Specifically, I'm a specialist in metabolic carbohydrate metabolism. That's where I started out. Okay. Was doing also a lot of anti-cancer work and looking at a natural source of and solution to cancer that I felt was more oriented toward the foods. So that drove me into the food area as a next resource.
Food is medicine, right?
You bet.
Yeah. So how did you end up here in hemp? How did you discover hemp? What are you doing with hemp?
Well, I think there's a little bit of history. Mainly, I've been around for too long. but I started with a company that I founded with my ex-husband, which was California Natural Products. And we were there were two people that were the darlings of Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak is that special packaging that makes the aseptic. But one was on the East Coast and one was on the West Coast. Steuben was on the East Coast. California Natural Products was the winner on the West Coast. But I started there, but we ran into a gentleman by the name of Robert Nissenbaum, who was the starter and originator of Rice Stream. Okay, but he was making it via a very traditional method using koji, and he wanted to get into the more public domain. Hence was the beginning of Rice Stream. And so that Rice Stream product was the first alternative dairy product other than the soy that was coming over from China, but he knew that it could be done with rice. And we wanted it to be in an aseptic package. Why? Because we wouldn't have had the turns if it was just in the refrigerated section. So by putting it in the package that could be on the shelf so that we could get it to the groceries and having this unique beverage, all in all, it was a fantastic start, and it was the #1 SKU in all of the natural foods. But I wanted more, and I realized that there was one problem when I developed that Rice Stream, is that I was removing and had to remove the protein and the fiber, and I was adding an emulsifier and everything to make the product work, and so that people appreciate it, which they did. So we did the transition to get people to a non-dairy beverage, but it didn't have the nutritional value. I knew that, and really I felt very bad about it. But the point is, I then said, I think I know how to make the difference. And so I took my R&D team, started another company, Creative Research Management, and said, we will figure out how to maximize the nutritional value of every grain, nut, and seed out there. And that's what started us into this thing. And we were successful because I realized that for 2,000 years, people have been milling to a flour or grinding to a paste, and that was all wrong. I had to start with a viable grain, nut, or seed and gently liberate this, and this became known, we referred to it as the hydro-release or the milking process. So I milked the grain, nut, or seed. And this way, it has, and I realized that it has all the natural emulsifiers. It has everything that you need in there. But if you destroy it by the milling process, then you don't get those. Hence, the food industry. Well, you add this ingredient and you add this ingredient and you're adding everything back. But if you gently open up the cell walls, it makes the difference. And so this really changed how we looked at all things. So when Steuben came into play and I was making the bases and the ingredients there at Steuben, Elmhurst said, okay, developed as a brand then, and was showing people that they only need 2 ingredients, 2 or at the most 3 ingredients, a salt or something else, but that's all. So unlike all these other major brands, they need to put all the emulsifiers in and everything and that was a problem. The other thing that was so very important was we realized that the proteins that were released were so much more digestible. By separating them carefully from the fiber and everything, people could digest it. So in having a very low digestibility, all the products that we were making had a very high protein digestibility. Hence, now we come into hemp.
Yeah.
And when I was working with hemp and making the hemp milk this, I realized that there was a very special protein. And as I said, functionality was the key term here. And it's a primary protein. And so this protein I could was also self-texturizing. I know that sounds very bizarre, doesn't it? Self-texturizing, what does that mean? Well, I could take that protein and add just a little bit of oil, open up that protein, let the oil form its natural bilayer, put it in the microwave, and it would self-texturize. It would come out looking like a piece of steak or a piece of chicken. It was totally unheard of. Nobody's seen this in the industry. And this is way back in 2009.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there going, I'm waiting for the legality. It wasn't legal at that time, not until 2019, where we could actually do this more in the U.S. and figure out how to run the process. And so that's where I am, the expert in the process itself.
Okay. I think we're on the cusp of a brand new paradigm.
We certainly are. Yeah. And I'm so excited. And it's hard to get this out here, so I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, it's great to talk to you, Cheryl. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hi, Erica. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Erica Campbell, co-founder and partner at In Common Group. We are a food systems strategic consulting firm.
Wow, okay. And how does that intersect with hemp, and how does that bring you here?
Yeah, so it doesn't exactly intersect with hemp yet. We're really focused on regenerative agriculture and telling the story and communications around regenerative agriculture and food systems in general. We have a variety of clients running different campaigns, supporting farm and food businesses, and generally working with communities and nonprofit organizations around kind of a variety of topics in the food system, from soil health all the way to food as medicine and nutrition.
Cool. Okay. Can you tell me a bit about your journey up until then, like a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So I've been in food systems for over 25 years, doing a lot of work early on to develop local and regional food systems. So that was everything from building markets for local small and medium-sized farmers, direct sale markets, farm to institution, farm to hospital, farm to school, and then retail markets as well, and in restaurants, sort of just really building out the economy, and then thinking through all the different pieces of that, what farmers need to be successful on their farm, to all the way through the supply chain.
Are you doing this in a local area? Or?
Yeah, I did a lot of this work in Vermont and the Northeast. And then as we were sort of building out these food systems, always coming up across policy issues, policy barriers, like all the subsidies going to the wrong places, and it led me down the policy path. And then I worked for 5 years for the U.S. Senate for Senator Bernie Sanders, and try to, make a dent in federal policy, really focused in on advancing healthy soil and health, and got really into food as medicine, worked on school meals bills, so kind of, again, across the food system.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. How is Bernie doing?
I think he's well. He's running again for Senate, so he'll be in for another.
And they love him
6
up there, right?
years.
Everybody
Yeah.
loves him.
Yeah, everybody loves Bernie. He's kind of a real deal politician. He's, I think that's sets him apart a lot. And he's very, very passionate, and obviously fighting the good fight. And in terms of agriculture, he, really supports farmers. And one thing I was really doing, working with him in his office, was getting them to see that farmers are really part of a solution to climate change, and that it's not just about farmers doing slightly less damage to the environment. It's actually about farmers can play such a key role in healing the environment and regenerating ecosystems.
Yeah. I often say that we have so many problems in the world that we can farm our way out of a lot of them.
Yeah. So that was actually when I first really got working for Senator Sanders, got introduced to the hemp world because, with the 2014 Farm Bill, Vermont had a pilot, and then we worked on the 28 Farm Bill. And so, got connected with some amazing hemp producers in Vermont, a lot of them doing CBD. We certainly didn't have the infrastructure there for a lot of the other products that come out. But, working a little bit on the FDA side, but yeah, just really trying to support the farmers, getting them access to federal programs as those were becoming more available, and seeing farmers doing really great things.
Cool. And your work in policy, I think, led you to be an advisor for documentary films. Is that right?
Yeah, so I started working at the nonprofit Kiss the Ground, which was is a nonprofit in the soil health space and regenerative agriculture that helped make the first Kiss the Ground film. So they worked with filmmakers Josh and Rebecca Tickell and to make the Kiss the Ground film. And then when I was at Kiss the Ground, I was leading a national farm bill campaign called Regenerate America. And we were, advocating for policy in Congress. And then as Josh and Rebecca were making Common Ground, we collaborated with them. And basically, they brought their whole film crew to DC, which was really fun. And we got to really share some of what was going on, behind the scenes with the Farm Bill. We had a hearing, actually 2 congressional hearings in Congress about regenerative agriculture, which was the first time ever that there were hearings on regenerative agriculture. And just meeting with offices, we brought tons of farmers to DC. We brought some brands that buy from regenerative farmers, and really. So that got in the film. So that's how I kind of got connected with the film.
Cool.
And then what I'm doing now with the film is developing and leading a brand new campaign called 100 Million Acres. And it's really aimed at making a big shift in regeneration. We have only about 1% of our farmland in the U.S. is either organic or regenerative, at least by certification. And so we're trying to get from that to over 10%, which is 100 million acres. So that's kind of we're seeing as like a tipping point. So getting brands to take pledges for at least 10% of their supply chain being from regenerative producers.
Right. How have those films changed the conversation?
Well, I think Kiss the Ground had a really big impact. It came out in 2020 during COVID, and was put out streaming on Netflix, and has had over 10 million views. I think that it really resonated with people. We've heard over and over from farmers, inspired farmers to make changes, which is really cool. And then certainly, from an eater's perspective, a consumer's perspective, I think a lot of people started to realize, wow, like soil health impacts, the quality of our food, certainly impacts the environment. And it's, since then too, you've seen regenerative agriculture used by so many more brands. Now it's like hemp, it's sort of a nascent, a newer, although regenerative agriculture is based on very ancient practices and indigenous practices and wisdom, it's sort of a newer concept to people. And it'll be interesting to kind of see. There's a lot of certifications, there's a lot of brands using the term, and
is there some danger there that it's going to get like oversaturated, lose its meaning?
I mean, we've sort of seen what happened to the term sustainability, and even, yes, absolutely. I mean, even with the organic industry, they worked so hard over the years to get, strong standards and get those codified into law and regulations. And even organic is, they're facing, a lot of issues with, skirting the standards. You see large monocrop organic farms now, and or animals that aren't actually going outside, and you're always going to have that. But that took a lot of time, and I think the worry with regenerative is there's already a huge amount of interest from brands and corporations. And so one quick explanation between regenerative and organic is regenerative is very focused on soil health and the principles of soil health. One of those principles includes least disturbance of the soil, which is really not tilling a lot, right? So the tilling piece. Organic also cares very much about soil health. The main focus there is the the elimination of any synthetic chemicals. So they're coming at it from a little bit of a different perspective, and sort of the on-ramp to regenerative is typically easier for a conventional farmer. They can start to do no-till or cover cropping, and then as their soil health improves over time, they can slowly kind of wean themselves off the chemicals. Also, those chemicals, the fertilizer and the herbicides, are very expensive. So ultimately, they're going to be saving a lot more money down the road. But you also see farmers just doing no-till in this country and kind of stopping there and not really going farther. So we're trying to bring these farmers down the path, eventually reducing their chemicals. Whereas organic is not using the chemicals, but pretty heavy tillage. And so while many organic farmers are doing beautiful jobs with their soil, and a lot of the small-scale farmers are producing compost, and some are even doing no-till, there's some to be learned on the organic side from the regenerative movement. So hopefully these two can really, they're so complementary. They're sort of, I see it as a big continuum, and you have sort of this degraded type production on one side, and we need to move everybody down the pathway. Organics on that pathway, but you can go farther. You can have just beautiful systems that are really regenerating ecosystems, bringing back tons of biodiversity, wildlife, massive deep water infiltration rates.
And that's going to require just a total paradigm shift, right? A change in how we approach everything.
Yeah, I think it is a big paradigm shift, and I think we're just trying to also figure out what are the levers for us to get there, because it is a mindset shift, as you're saying.
Yeah. How is your summit going? What have you learned? What's some of your takeaways?
Yeah. Well, this is my first hemp conference. I have been to some cannabis conferences, and one's a little more focused on CBD, but this is really the first industrial hemp conference I've been to, so I've learned a ton. I mean, I'm really interested in the fiber side and the food and the health food side of the grain and the seed and the oil. I think that's just incredible. It's also really interesting to learn about the animal feed side. I mean, the building side, the plastics. I mean, it really is kind of mind-blowing. I'm really excited about the film One Plant, because I think that the public needs to hear more about this and learn about it.
That's the missing piece, right? The government
Yeah.
sort of knows what's happening. Industry's there. We need.
Yeah, the public. I'm really excited about the HEMI as well, this new coalition, and the Goodness of Hemp brand, because, and you know, this is the marketing side, the education, the storytelling that I think is going to really propel the industry forward.
Erica Campbell, it's nice to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Anjali Kumar. I have a sustainable textile startup called Inner Bark Heritage.
Okay, and where is that located?
So we're out of Atlanta, Georgia right now.
All right, and tell me a bit about your background.
Yeah, so I have a background in chemistry and material science. And I got into hemp because I was interested in sustainable materials.
And what did you think of hemp as a material? Talk about its attributes.
Yeah, so there's some people who have been in the hemp game for like ever and ever, but for me it's really relatively new. So about 3 years ago, I worked on a project to replace the cotton in military uniforms with hemp, and so I was attracted to the project just because hemp is a natural material, but then the more that I learned about it, the more that I understood that it's not just any natural material, it's one of the most incredible natural materials. And so from there, I just saw a lot of opportunity in the field because it is such a nascent field in kind of like the current era. So I saw a lot of opportunity in terms of supply chain development as well as like education development.
Yeah. So tell me more about the company.
The main goal of the company is to do farm to fabric hemp fabric production. And the reason is because, everyone within the hemp supply chain, the reason that the supply chain hasn't become robust in terms of hemp textiles and wearables and such is that everyone is hesitant to scale their operations because everyone is hesitant about whether or not, or they're uncertain if they're going to have a buyer for their product. So the farmer doesn't want to plant if the farmer doesn't know that they're going to have someone, a decorticator who can purchase it. The decorticator doesn't want to scale their operations because they don't know if they have a customer who will buy it off of them to do the degumming step, right? So the reason that I want to carry it from farm to fabric is because I know that there are different entities who do the different steps, but with just the nature of hemp having the political history that it does, there kind of needs to be a separate entity who will carry it through. The value of that entity is the continuity.
Can you talk about the different steps that you've identified that you need to take the hemp from the farm to the fabric? Yeah,
so so after the hemp is farmed, so like harvested and removed from the field, the first step is decortication. So in decortication, the fiber is separated from the hurd of the plant, and ideally, so there's various decorticators, but it's really hard to find good decorticators or good decortication that creates fiber that's textile grade. You can have fiber for other things like animal bedding and I don't know, all the other stuff that they use fiber for, composites and such. But in order to make like woven or knitted fabrics to wear, you're limited in terms of the type of decortication that can be done. So there's the decortication, and then after that, once you have the fiber, the textile grade fiber, the next step is to remove the lignin, so that's degumming. And so working with people like in Alabama and North Carolina for these processes. And then after the degumming is done, the next step is sort of opening the fiber. So the degumming removes the lignin, but the fibers are still in bundles, just physically. And so the opening process is, a carding process where the fibers are separated, and then from there you go to like sliver development, and then the sliver is spun into yarn, and from there you can make a woven or a knitted fabric. So those are kind of the steps.
Cool. Did you have a chance to meet Guy Carpenter while you were here?
Yeah, so I actually know Guy Carpenter pretty well. I'm actually wearing this skirt that I have was made out of bare fiber fabric. So Guy Carpenter's company is bare fiber, and so he made this fabric that is 30% hemp, 70% cotton. And I've known him for, I would say, a while, but really, I've only been in the hemp game 3 years, but I've known him since the beginning of my time in the hemp game. He just has this like wealth of knowledge about hemp and knows everybody. And he is kind of like the champion for hemp, specifically for hemp textiles. With textile development, you have to think more about integration. And I think that's something that he's identified, because he always works with cotton hemp blends. Yeah, I think there's just a lot of space in the industry because of its history and because of its new nature that we need more champions.
Yeah. So the summit, how's it going for you? Can you offer like a nugget or two of wisdom that you've learned while you're here?
Well, maybe before I give the nugget of wisdom, I'll just, so the other side of my business, I'm doing direct-to-consumer apparel that I am making overseas. So this fiber comes from China, and then the fabric and apparel is manufactured in India. And I donated 3 of these shirts for the auction, and people were loving them. So that was a big part of what I got out of the summit, is the visibility on that part. So if you're interested in buying a women's hemp top for yourself or anybody else, you can feel free to come to our website. And
what's the website?
The website is www.innerbarkheritage.com.
Inner Bark Heritage?
Inner Bark Heritage. And so the name Inner Bark Heritage comes from, the hemp fiber that's taken and used for textiles is taken from the area right inside the main skin of the stalk of the hemp plant. So it's the inner bark portion of the plant. And heritage because, hemp and other bast fibers were the first fibers that we as humans isolated from nature. And so while in some ways, hemp is new, it's also ancient. Hemp is believed to be the first bast fiber, the first fiber that we ever, as humans, isolated from nature. So the idea is to go back to our heritage, our human heritage.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guy Carpenter.
What's going on, Eric? My lifeguard.
Well, we're here at the Montana Summit, and I want to talk to you about a couple of things. So yesterday I saw you give a presentation with the guy from Smith & Rogue.
Brandon Kishbaugh.
Who was it?
Brandon Kishbaugh.
Yeah, and you guys were talking about a shirt, right? Called the Benton shirt.
Well, the amazing thing about that shirt is that hemp fiber was grown here in the USA, in Montana actually, and processed here, separated fiber from the herd, sent to me. I had it degummed.
Where are you at, in Carolina?
In the Carolinas, southeastern America, and it was actually degummed outside of Georgia, and outside of Atlanta in Georgia. And then we blended it with organic Pima cotton from Arizona, and then we spun yarn from it, from National Spinning in North Carolina, which has gone out of business since, but they did a great job spinning that yarn. Then we wove it into fabric at Central Textiles in South Carolina, and we finished the fabric at Mount Vernon Mills in Georgia. And from there, Brandon and Smith & Rogue purchased some of the fabric and sent it to New York State, where it was dyed and where it was also cut and sewn into these amazing shirts that are 100% made in USA, from the fiber being grown to the garment being cut and sewn in New York City, as a matter of fact. And they're an incredibly high value shirt that's going to last an amazing long time.
All right, so there's a lot to talk about there. First question is that a rarity to have a garment that all of the fibers were grown and processed and made here in the U.S.?
Well, it's certainly the first one that includes hemp fiber in decades here in the U.S. Well, the fact that the yarn and the fabric was made here in the USA is pretty special in and of itself, and the fact that the garment was cut and sewn and finished, fully finished here in the United States, that's certainly very special also. But the fact that it has American hemp in it, and it's the first time anybody's done it in a commercial manner here in the United States in decades and decades and decades, that the real point to think about is, given that it's got the hemp fiber in it, this is probably the first garment with hemp fiber grown and processed and everything all the way through cut and sewn and finished, done that outside of China in hundreds of years, possibly even, in a commercial scale.
And at some point, those shirts will be for sale?
Yes, there's a website. I think the website comes up if you Google Benton hemp shirt.
Yeah, I'll put the link up so people can click on it. Yeah, it's a limited edition, though, right?
It's a limited edition. There's only going to be 200 made. Each hang tag will be numbered. They're going to sell out really fast. So if anybody wants one, you better get your order in fast.
All right, so you mentioned China in there, and you've been there a lot over the course of your life.
I was there last month.
Yeah, well, yeah, I want to hear about that. Tell me about your trip to China.
It was great. I was able to visit my network of people who had introduced me to and been teaching me about hemp for 25 years, and visited growers and fiber processors and degummers and spinning mills and weaving mills and knitting mills. Trey Riddle from IND Hemp went with me, and that was great having a mechanical engineer traveling with me to assess and evaluate some of the equipment that we saw, and also to look at some of the process that we observed and where we could perhaps adopt and adapt what we're doing here in the United States to what they're doing in China so successfully.
And then you also went to Japan too, right?
Went to Japan for a week with the National Industrial Hemp Council, and Patrick Katagi sponsored a trade mission which had funded through USDA, and that was amazing. We visited the Golden Hemp operation, and I saw processing in a manner that I didn't know existed. I'd never seen hemp that had the fiber stripped from it manually, and then the pectin, the gummy substance which binds the fiber to the herd, was literally scraped off mechanically. I had no idea that there was that much pectin when it was in its raw state, as what I saw in Japan.
What do they use to get that off?
A little piece of metal.
Yeah, just like they scrape it,
scrape it. It was amazing to see the ribbons of fiber that came through with that, and now I understand why that centuries-long tradition of hemp has existed in Japan, and why how they're able to make such amazing yarn and fabrics that they do.
What's your understanding of sort of the divine properties of the hemp that they make the sacred ropes out of? I know very little about it, but I was talking to Jean Lotus, and she told me some about it. But what's your understanding of these sacred ropes and how they fit into the Shinto religion?
Jean was a great traveling companion. She had lots of questions, and they were very perceptive. And what happens is once they harvest the fiber in the manner that they do, it's extremely pure, and they then separate the fibers from that, and they spin it in a manner that's centuries old, traditional, and they make yarn from which they make belts for sumo wrestlers, that type of thing, and which also they make fabrics for the emperor in a traditional manner that are just amazing. Super soft, but heavyweight also. I'd love to be able to do that myself.
All right. Well, how is the summit going for you? Did you learn something today that surprised you?
I've learned something every day that the summit's been going on, and it's been inspirational and motivational to see so many folks and friends that are still so positive about what we can do and what we will do with hemp moving forward.
Yeah. Very inspirational. I agree with you. Thank you, Guy. It's nice to talk to you.
Good talking to you, Eric. Let's not go swimming.
Can we explain that story? Because every time you see me, you call me.
My lifeguard because of that time we went tubing in the Missouri River.
It was last at the third Montana Hemp Summit.
Yeah.
A bunch of us went out on the river.
And I had a heart attack like a couple months before that.
What?
And I was...
You should have disclosed that before.
Yeah, well, maybe. And then when I fell out of the tube as we were going down the river, I could not jump up high enough to get back in it. And without your help, I would have just languished there forever.
Or they would have found your body in St. Louis.
Yeah, that's very likely.
Yeah. Well, I am very glad that I had the chances to help you out there.
I appreciate it, brother.
It's been nice getting to know you.
Same.
How you doing, Steve?
Oh, I'm doing good and soaking up all the knowledge and the networking here at this event.
Yeah, so give me like top 3 nuggets of hemp information that you learned today.
I guess first thing, we just came out of a session where there's definitely tangible efforts to educate the general public on the values of hemp and the supply chain all the way through. So it's just good to see that. I see that for myself is kind of wind in our sails. The other thing for me, a lot of these events is more about networking and meeting people, some for the first time, which again, I've met some people for the first time, and reacquainting and just getting an update. It's kind of inspiring to hear some of the other people's ideas, but also comforting to know that the challenge we're facing is everybody's facing. So
right.
It's a little comforting for that.
You mentioned catching up with old acquaintances. Yesterday, I was talking to you and Bob.
Quinn.
What's his name? Bob Quinn.
Yeah.
So tell me, your high-level view of who Bob Quinn is, and when did you meet him?
I met Bob Quinn in the early 2000s at a national SARE conference, S-A-R-E, USDA, Sustainable Agriculture and Research Education. And we kind of hit it off. I was curious and intrigued with his use of kamut wheat, which is a heritage or a very old wheat variety. And what's interesting is now that variety that he has produced and grown, and it doesn't have the gluten issues that are associated with common wheat varieties now. So I haven't seen him for it's been probably 15 or 20 years, although we had communicated quite frequently about 10 years ago when he was growing organic tillage radish seeds for me in my cover crop business back in those days. So it was just really good to reconnect with him. And it was so funny because he goes, "Hey, Steve, I want to give you my book." And I'm like, "Okay, I brought a book along that I'll give to you as well." So we kind of traded our books. Neither of us knew that we had written a book. So, yeah, it was good catching up with Bob.
And so you guys are both here because of hemp, which was probably surprising for you.
I was surprised to hear Bob here and to see Bob here, but the coolest thing was that he is doing something with hemp that I did not know about. And he's using hemp, particularly out here in the West, or in Montana today, using that to help clean up the saline or the salt spots in the fields that are prevalent around here. I didn't know that hemp could do that. So that was something I learned.
Yeah, cool. That's Larry Serban.
Yes, sir.
Let's bring him in. Hey, Larry.
Hey, Larry.
Come on in.
Join the Eric Hurlock Lancaster Farming podcast here.
Hey, Larry, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Eric?
Pretty good. You and Steve are doing some work together these days, right?
Yes, we are. We are working on green decortication. You probably heard that.
Yeah, we talked about that in Steve's field too, right?
Right. A bit. And it is, without giving away too much, I would say it's definitely moving forward. We're very excited about this.
All right. And so the summit is a great place for you to reconnect with everybody too? Yeah?
Reconnect, talk to people, see who's interested in things like that, see where the industry is. And every time I come to one of these, it reinforces the idea that what we're doing is so important, that it really have an effect, not just on what we're doing, but the effect on everyone in the whole industry.
Amen to that.
Make everyone's job a lot easier. Yeah.
Well, it's great to see you guys, and here we're at the, I guess, dinner and the movie's about to start, right?
Yeah,
So,
can't wait.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to me.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Hey, guys, what's happening?
Hey, Hemp Daddy. Hemp Daddy's here.
I'm not the hemp daddy.
You're not?
No. All right. So I'm here with Jordan and Maxwell, right? We're at the Montana Hemp Summit, and you guys are just about to present your trailer. Here, you tell me what you're about to do and why this is probably the worst time to interview you.
Well, yeah, we're about to go on stage here. We've been working on a new trailer to share with this group. We're also launching a Kickstarter to try to raise the rest of the funds to get the thing done. So we thought, what a better group than to launch it with than the people that love and, talk about this plant all the time. They want to, get it out to the world, and so we're going to launch it here. And we're excited about it. This has kind of become our industry as well. Sort of like you, we were outsiders and just documenting, and
You're on the shrimp boat with me.
now we found ourselves in this wild, crazy group of people that we love.
All right, Maxwell, you're awfully quiet here. How's Montana for you this time?
Well, Montana is always great. I'm just kind of reflecting back on the last 2.5 years and where we started and kind of where we're at now. And yeah, like Jordan said, a lot of these people started as folks that were industry leaders and became friends along the way. We got brought into their life and their pursuit of whatever they were doing in this industry, and it's all in this film now, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of cool. And so, yeah, of course there's a little bit of nerves here, or, any sort of public speaking is like this, but ultimately this film has got to get out there. It's got to get out to the general public and not just all the hempsters. And so we're kind of at that diving board. We're ready to launch this thing and just super excited.
Cool. Well, good luck with everything in the launch. Do you have one of those big buttons that you're going to press?
I think it's just a normal size button, but we are going to press it live.
Okay, there will be buttons pressed.
Yes. And we're going to share the link with everyone, and
Yeah, Jordan's going to be launching it live on stage. Hopefully it all works out. He's going to pull out his laptop and actually press it with everybody.
That's exciting. All right, cool. All right, well, good luck, and we'll see you on the other side.
thanks, Sam Daddy.
Hello again.
Howdy do.
I do pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Good to see you again, my friend.
yeah, I met you yesterday, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so we're not like old acquaintances.
No, but we're fast friends.
Yeah, I'll take that. All right, so Steve Groff mentioned you. I just interviewed him a minute ago, and he told the story of how he met you at a SARE conference years and years ago.
In Oregon, I think.
But I imagine your story starts way before that. So what's your story? You wrote a book, apparently, too. So how would you introduce yourself? How do you, how about this? Bob, will you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Bob Quinn. I live in Big Sandy, Montana, or at least 12 miles southeast of there, pretty close to north central Montana, on the wheat and cattle ranch my grandfather started in 1920, where my father was raised, where I was raised, where I raised my kids. I had two great loves growing up. One was science and one was gardening, plants.
Yeah.
So I loved everything green, everything growing. I went to school at Montana State University in Bozeman, studied botany and plant pathology, and then went on to Davis, to University of California at Davis, and got a PhD in plant biochemistry. And then after a couple of years, I was a little disillusioned with academia at that point. I came back to the farm. And after a short while, turned my whole farm into my laboratory and my garden. So that's how we got started. In the early 80s, I started Montana Flour and Grain in an effort to market our own grain off our farm, high-protein wheat it was, to whole grain bakers in California. That led me to first food show I attended at Natural Products Expo in Anaheim in '86. There I introduced an ancient wheat, and that had one whole contact who was interested. And so based on that one contact, we planted all we had, which is about 50 pounds. 30 years later, we were contracting with about 250 organic farmers in Montana, Alberta, and Saskatchewan for about 100,000 acres of this grain and selling it all over the world.
What's the grain called?
We marketed it under the brand name of Kamut.
K-A-M-U-T?
Right, and that is a name I found in an ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic dictionary that means wheat in Egyptian. We were told in the beginning it was found in a tube in Egypt, which I went to Cairo myself and looked at the wheat found in the tombs. It wasn't there.
So where did you find the original seed?
So I first saw it when I was probably a junior in high school at the county fair in Fort Benton, Choteau County, our home county. This old fellow was passing out handfuls of this, and he said to me, he said, "Hey, Sonny," he said, "come on over here." He said, "Would you like some of King Tut's wheat?" And I said, "Oh, sure." And so he poured this giant wheat into my hands. It's about 3 times the size of our normal wheat, and it was just a novelty. And the story was there was a fellow from our county who was in the Air Force in Portugal about 1950 or so, and he went to the bar one night, and the guy sitting next to him said, "Well, look what I found in a tomb in Egypt." And he poured this giant wheat out in the bar, and the guy said, "Oh my gosh," he said, "my dad's a wheat farmer in Montana. You think I could have a few kernels?" And so he counted out 32 kernels, and that's what he gave him. I don't know how the deal went, but they got that much and sent it home, and it all grew, which should have been the first clue that it really didn't come out of a tomb 4,000 years ago. Probably got it at the Cairo market, but that was the story that went with it. And it was a great novelty, but no one could find any products to make with it that was acceptable. It doesn't make good bread. It turns out to be a very close relative of durum, so it's a natural pasta type grain, but the color wasn't as pure and beautiful as our modern durum, so nobody really wanted to pay any money for it. So it just sort of disappeared after the novelty wore off.
Where was it from? Egypt originally, or where was it from?
Well, not originally, but they call it Baladi durum. So I did a lot of research on it, and Baladi means native durum of Egypt, but there's no such thing as native durum of Egypt because no grains originated there. They came from Mesopotamia mostly, and that's where this type of grain originated. It's in the Khorasan group, which is, as I mentioned before, the real close relative of durum. And when I was in Turkey, I was doing some experiments there, and the folks that I was working with said, "Well, we know this grain. We call it the prophet's wheat, or we call it camel tooth because of the way it's shaped." And I said, "Wow, that's really interesting." I said, "Why do you call it the prophet's wheat?" And I said, "Does it have something to do with Muhammad? Because, it's pretty Muslim there." And I was all by myself. I didn't want to get on the wrong side of that discussion. Sure. And he said, "Oh, no, not that prophet." He says, "The one with the boat." I said, "The boat?" I said, "Do you mean Noah?" He said, "Oh, yes, this is the grain Noah brought with him on the ark." And I said, "Wow, that's a lot better story than my old tomb story." And so we were off and running. But what really started the whole thing was that we gave it to a friend who couldn't eat wheat. She had all kinds of sensitivities. And lo and behold, she did some kinesiology testing and thought she could try it. And she tried it, and she could eat it without any trouble at all. And she said, "Well, I can eat this stuff. I don't know what it is." She said, "What is this stuff?" I said, "Well, it's an ancient wheat, ancient grain." And she said, "Well, do you think I could send some to my sister?" She said she can't eat wheat, and a lot of other things she's sensitive to. So we sent her a whole box of these little samples we had of pasta that made up. This is about 88 now, or 89. And in a few weeks, her sister called back, or maybe a month or so, and she said, not only after eating it for 4 or 5 weeks could I eat it, but after 4 or 5 weeks, I was less sensitive to other grains, not grains only, but other foods I was having trouble with. So it was healing her body. So once that happened, then we took a very different attitude toward this grain. And we felt like it was more like, a gift from the Lord, that it was to help people and to be a healer for people in this time of so much disease and trouble with food.
Food is medicine, right?
That's where I first got the idea, from this personal experience. So we started doing research. I couldn't find anybody in America who was interested in doing research for us because they all said, well, if people have wheat sensitivities, it's probably all in their head. And they told me, if I did the kind of research you're asking me for, I'd be wasting my time and your money. And so we ended up going to Italy, where they're very interested in this question because the Italians, if they can't eat their regular pasta, they don't run down the street and buy wheat-free, gluten-free. They want to know what the problem is and how to solve it. So they were very interested in a wheat alternative to modern durum that they could eat. And we started doing research and found very, very, well, almost on the first try, that the grain was anti-inflammatory. And so we knew, this is a rat study we did, so we knew that because inflammation is tied to all chronic disease, we immediately jumped to human clinical trials with chronic disease. And so we studied diabetes, heart disease, irritable bowel syndrome, non-alcoholic fatty liver syndrome, fibromyalgia, and after about 10 or 15 years, we published almost 38 now, peer-reviewed journal articles about the difference between modern wheat and this ancient wheat on human clinical or on human disease and people with these chronic diseases.
This is way off topic of hemp, right? But these diseases in people, do they track with any kind of changes in agriculture?
Well, yes, chemical agriculture is also a problem, especially if you have some of those chemicals still on the food that goes out. And glyphosate is a big problem with. Glyphosate has been used as a desiccant, and sometimes wheat is sprayed with glyphosate to burn it down and to prepare for harvest before winter comes. We don't really do that much in Montana, but further north in Alberta, Saskatchewan, they do. And so that also causes trouble. I'm really thrilled with the hemp guys here that are really focusing on organic, particularly as food and it's clothing. That's because that's my line. And so I'm really thrilled to be partnering with them on different hemp projects that we're doing on our farm and in our research institute that we've created.
Yeah. I got an interview with you yesterday and you talked about your research with the saline or the salinity of the soil. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that too?
Sure. Well, in the northern Great Plains of North America, in the short grass prairies where we only have 12 to 14 inches of rain, we have a phenomenon called a saline seep. And it is caused by rain soaking into hilltops particularly and then running down underground and hitting an impervious layer such as clay, because they're soaking in the sand usually at the top of the hills, and then it's being forced up to the top of the surface of the ground, carrying with it all kinds of salts that are dissolved in that soil because it's very alkaline, very saline soils. And when it reaches the top, it evaporates and leaves a layer of salt. The way to fix that is to surround that breakout area with alfalfa that takes out the water before it breaks out, and then you don't have a breakout, and hence you don't have the problem. Our question is, will hemp, particularly fiber hemp, which goes so tall and so lush, take out more water than alfalfa? And so that is the heart of our experiments, and we're just in the first year now where we tested 3 different types of hemp varieties, and we see a big difference in their resistance to salinity or their ability to grow in saltier conditions. And so that's the first observation that we had.
All right, cool. Well, we'll check back in with you as the years go and see how it goes. Well, thanks again for talking to me. It's great to meet you.
It's great to be here.
All right, well, here it is. It's Friday afternoon. It's October 18th. I'm here at Great Falls International Airport in Montana after spending all week here in Montana, mostly in Great Falls, but a couple of days up in Fort Benton. Yeah, Montana. It's been a good week. I'm looking forward to getting home. You know, they say that gratitude is the engine of love, and love is the engine of the world. And I saw that on display here at the Goodness of Hemp Summit 2024, also known as the 4th annual Montana Hemp Summit. Oh, the gratitude that pushes the love, and the love that pushes the world. You see that there with what the Elliott family is doing at IND Hemp. Their gratitude and love, it's humbling, it's awesome, and it was just a glory to behold what they're building here in Fort Benton with the company IND Hemp, but also the networks of farmers, and this event with people from all over. You know, like they came here and there was a palpable exchange of information and, you know, learning, and you could feel the industry just getting smarter in real time. And that was made possible because of the folks at IND Hemp. they're making this happen, and they're making it happen because, like they say, they're people of faith. They're a family of faith, and they have been blessed, and they are absolutely grateful, and they put that into the world. That gratitude fuels their love, and their love for the world and for people make things like the Goodness of Hemp Summit possible. And so for me, just to be a little part of it is very humbling and awesome. And I just can't believe my luck. This is incredible, and I don't take it for granted. I am super grateful for all of this, for all of the people that I've met through this journey, not just the one here to Great Falls, but this journey of hemp podcasting that I'm on. That sounds so weird to say, but yeah, I'm on a journey, and it has sort of infiltrated all aspects of my life. You know, this is more than just a professional journey for me. I feel like I'm on an intellectual, educational, spiritual journey as well. The knowledge I've gained about myself through this work and about the world, and yeah, I'm absolutely grateful for it. So anyway, yeah, Montana, happy to be here, happy to be going home. And I did eventually make it home, and I'm grateful I did. And lots of things are changing in the world, right? That's one of the themes of today's show. Another theme might be food is medicine. And what's your homework? Your homework is to go support the Kickstarter campaign for the One Plant film. Okay, so that's it. My name is Eric Hurlock. I am the senior digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. If you have any questions or comments or concerns that you want to share with me, please type them up and send an email to podcast@lancasterfarming.com. I will read them. I might call you up. I might send you an email in reply. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But anyway, yeah, great changes are in store for the world, and I have a lot of questions. I am super curious what's about to happen. All right, so tune in next time, and maybe we'll find out together. All right, until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2024 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show is written, recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Hurlock. The music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow.